Yes, a woman did rule ancient Egypt before Cleopatra. More than one woman, actually. Cleopatra was very famous, of course, but she wasn't the first. Long before her time, other women held the top job. They were pharaohs, just like the men. They built temples, they led armies, they managed the country. They did everything a male pharaoh would do. It was rare, but it happened, and it shows how strong some women in ancient Egypt were. They broke through old ideas about who could rule. Their stories are pretty amazing. They remind us that history is often more complex than we first think. Ancient Egypt was a land of strong traditions. Men usually ruled. This was the normal way things went. The pharaoh was seen as a god on earth. He was the link between people and the gods. He kept order, called Ma'at. People believed this balance was very important. A king was typically male. This was often passed down from father to son. But Egypt was also a place where women had more rights than in many other old cultures. Women could own land. They could run businesses. They could be priests. They could divorce their husbands. They could represent themselves in court. This was unusual for the time. So while a queen was not usually a ruler on her own, she often had a lot of power. The king's mother, his main wife, or his daughters could be very important people. They influenced decisions, they handled big estates, they had religious roles. Sometimes a queen might even be called God's wife of Amun. This was a powerful title. It showed her close connection to the gods, it gave her a lot of sway. Think about the very early days of Egypt, way back in the first dynasty. One queen stands out. Her name was Merneith. She was the wife of King Jet, and she was the mother of King Den. When Den was too young to rule, Merneith stepped in. She ruled as regent. This means she governed the country for her son. She had her own tomb in Abydos. It was a royal tomb. This was highly unusual for a woman who was not a pharaoh. Her name was also found in many places. It was written in a way that suggested she had royal power. Some historians even think she might have ruled as pharaoh in her own right. It's hard to say for sure. The records are old and a bit fuzzy, but it shows that even very early on, women could step into the top role. They could take charge, they could guide the country. Merneith's presence suggests that the idea of a woman holding real power wasn't totally new or shocking to the ancient Egyptians. It paved the way for others. It showed that under certain circumstances, a woman could be the one to lead. And she could do it well, she commanded respect, she kept the kingdom stable. This kind of strong female leadership was a thread that ran through Egypt's long history. It wasn't always obvious, but it was there. Later, other queens would also serve as regents. They would rule for young sons or for husbands who were sick. They would keep the government running. They would handle important matters. These women learned how to govern. They learned how to lead. They understood the politics. They knew what it took to keep Egypt strong. This experience was vital. It meant that when the time came for a woman to become pharaoh herself, she wasn't starting from scratch. She often had years of practice. She had built a network of support. She knew the ropes. This background was key for the women who would eventually sit on the throne as full pharaohs. They weren't just figureheads, they were experienced leaders. The idea of divine rule was strong. The pharaoh was a man. He was Horus, the living god. But the system was flexible enough. It could adapt when needed. If no male heir was ready, or if the male heir was too weak, a strong woman could step up. The goal was always to keep Egypt stable, to maintain Ma'at. If a woman was the best person to do that, then a woman could do it. This was a pragmatic choice. It wasn't about breaking traditions for the sake of it. It was about making sure Egypt stayed strong. It was about survival. And sometimes the best leader for survival was a woman. The Middle Kingdom of Egypt was a time of great art and good governance. It was also a time when the pharaoh's power was very strong. Most pharaohs were men. But near the end of the 12th dynasty, things changed. There was a king named Amenemhat IV. He ruled for about 9 years, but he died without a son. This was a big problem. Without a male heir, the royal line was in danger. It could lead to chaos. It could lead to civil war. Egypt needed a leader. Someone had to step up. That's when Sobekneferu came to power. She was Amenemhat IV's sister. Some say she was also his wife. This was common for royal families in Egypt. She became pharaoh. She was the first woman we know for sure who ruled as pharaoh in her own right. Her reign was short, maybe 3 or 4 years, but it was important. It showed that a woman could hold the highest office. She wasn't just a regent, she was the actual king. When Sobekneferu took the throne, she faced a big challenge. She had to show she was a legitimate ruler, she had to fit into a system designed for men. So, she used special titles, she changed her name means the beauty of Sobek. Sobek was a crocodile god. This connected her to a powerful male deity. It gave her more authority. She also used the full royal title. It was the same one male pharaohs used. This was a clear statement. She was not a queen, she was pharaoh. Her statues and images are interesting. Some show her dressed in women's clothing. Others show her with a combination of male and female features. She might wear a kilt, like a man. But her body shape would be clearly female. She might wear the false beard. This was a symbol of royalty, usually worn by men. This mix of looks was clever. It helped her fit into the pharaonic role, but it also kept her female identity. She wasn't pretending to be a man. She was a woman who was pharaoh. She was adapting the traditions to suit her. Sobekneferu built things. She added to the funerary complex of her father, Amenemhat III, at Hawara. This was a huge pyramid complex. It included a famous labyrinth. She also built structures in Heracleopolis Magna. Building was a key duty of a pharaoh. It showed their power. It showed their devotion to the gods. It also created jobs. It kept the economy going. By doing these things, Sobekneferu proved she was a real pharaoh. She was not just holding the seat warm, she was actively ruling. Her reign marked the end of the 12th dynasty. After her, Egypt entered a period called the Second Intermediate Period. This was a time of weaker kings and less central control. Some people might try to link this to her being a woman ruler, but that's not fair. The problems were already brewing. The end of the 12th dynasty was probably due to bigger issues. These included problems with succession and maybe economic troubles. Sobekneferu did her best to keep things together. She maintained stability during a tricky time. She kept the royal house going. She handed over a unified country. Even if it was fragile, Sobekneferu's rule set a precedent. It showed that a woman could be pharaoh. It opened the door, even if only a little, for future women. It proved that the system could bend. It showed that leadership was about capability, not just about gender. Her legacy might not be as grand as later pharaohs, but her place in history is clear. She was the first. She broke a very strong barrier. She showed that a woman could truly rule Egypt. Centuries after Sobekneferu in the New Kingdom, another woman would take the throne. And she would rule for much longer. Her name was Hatshepsut. She is one of the most famous pharaohs in history, male or female. Her story is one of great ambition and smart political moves. Hatshepsut was the daughter of Thutmose I. He was a powerful pharaoh. She was also the main wife of her half-brother, Thutmose II. They had a daughter, Neferyur. Thutmose II had a son with a lesser wife. His name was Thutmose III. When Thutmose II died, his son Thutmose III was very young, too young to rule by himself. So Hatshepsut became regent. This meant she would rule for him until he grew up. This was a common role for royal women. At first, Hatshepsut did what was expected. She governed the country. She handled the daily tasks of a ruler. She kept the kingdom stable. But she was more than just a placeholder. She was strong, she was intelligent, and she had a lot of experience in government. She had been a powerful queen during her husband's reign. She knew how things worked. She had built connections. Over time, Hatshepsut's power grew. She didn't just rule for Thutmose III. She slowly started to take on more and more kingly titles. She started to present herself as a ruler in her own right. This was a very bold step. It was unprecedented. No regent had ever done this before. She began to use the full royal title. She started wearing the traditional pharaonic clothes. She also used male pronouns when talking about herself in inscriptions. This transition was not a sudden thing. It happened over several years. She carefully built her support base. Many important officials were loyal to her. One of her most trusted advisors was Senenmut. He was a high-ranking official. He was like her prime minister. He helped her manage the country. He oversaw many of her building projects. His loyalty was key. With powerful people supporting her, Hatshepsut could make her move. She used religion to justify her rule. She claimed that the god Amun-Ra himself had chosen her. She said he had appeared to her mother. He said Hatshepsut was his divine daughter, and that she was destined to rule. This was a very smart move, and it made her rule seem legitimate in the eyes of the gods and the people. No one could argue with a divine decree. She also claimed that her father, Thutmose I, had declared her his successor. This also added to her legitimacy. So, Hatshepsut didn't just seize power. She carefully constructed a case for her rule. She used existing traditions. She used religious beliefs. She used her connections. She made it seem like it was the natural and right thing to happen. It was a masterclass in political maneuvering. She didn't just want to be queen, she wanted to be pharaoh, and she made it happen. She took the throne around the 7th year of Thutmose III's reign. He was still quite young. But now, she was not just ruling for him. She was ruling as pharaoh, with him as co-ruler. This was a delicate balance, but Hatshepsut managed it. She became one of Egypt's greatest rulers. Hatshepsut ruled Egypt for about 22 years. This was a long and successful reign. She was not a warrior pharaoh like many of the famous kings of the New Kingdom. Instead, she focused on trade, building, and making Egypt rich and peaceful. Her time on the throne is often seen as a golden age. One of her biggest accomplishments was her building program. She built many temples and monuments across Egypt. Her most famous work is the mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. It's a stunning place. It has 3 levels. There are long ramps and beautiful colonnades. It's carved right into the cliffs. This temple was not just a place for her to be remembered. It was also a testament to her power and her devotion to the gods. It had chapels for Amun-Hathor and Anubis. It told the story of her divine birth and her successful reign. The artwork in the temple is incredible. It shows her trade expeditions, it shows her building projects, it shows her as a strong and capable ruler. She also restored many temples that had fallen into disrepair. This was important. It showed she respected the gods. It showed she cared about Egypt's traditions. She had great obelisks raised at Karnak Temple. These were huge stone pillars. They were covered in inscriptions. They spoke of her glory and her relationship with Amun. Moving and raising these obelisks was a massive feat of engineering. It showed her power. It showed her resources. Another famous achievement was her trade expedition to the land of Punt. This was a mysterious place. It was somewhere on the coast of East Africa. No pharaoh had sent a large expedition there for many years. Hatshepsut sent ships. They brought back exotic goods. They brought frankincense trees, they brought myrrh trees, they brought gold, ivory, and exotic animals. This trade brought great wealth to Egypt. It showed her ambition, it showed her skill in managing large projects. The journey to Punt was recorded on the walls of her Deir el-Bahari temple. It was a source of great pride. Hatshepsut ruled peacefully. There is little evidence of major wars during her reign. She focused on stability and economic growth. This was a different approach from the warrior kings who came before and after her. But it was very effective. Egypt thrived under her leadership. The people were well fed. The temples were grand. The economy was strong. She presented herself as a male pharaoh. She wore the false beard. She wore the kilt. Her statues often show her with a masculine physique. This wasn't about hiding her gender, it was about fitting the role. The pharaoh was traditionally male. So she took on the male symbols of the office. It was a practical choice. It helped her command authority. It made her rule acceptable to the people and the priests, but her title still often included feminine endings. She was a woman. She was also pharaoh. She found a way to be both. During her reign, Thutmose III grew up. He was her co-ruler, he led the army, he conducted military campaigns, but Hatshepsut was the dominant ruler. She was the one making the big decisions. Their relationship is debated. Some think it was harmonious. Some think Thutmose III resented her power. We don't really know for sure. After about 22 years, Hatshepsut died. We don't know exactly how, but after her death, something strange happened. Many of her monuments were defaced. Her images were removed. Her name was erased from official records. This is called damnatio memoriae. It means to condemn the memory of someone. It was probably done by Thutmose III. He waited until she was gone. Then he tried to remove her from history. Why did he do it? Maybe he wanted to reclaim his rightful place as sole pharaoh. Maybe he wanted to ensure his son would inherit the throne without any question. Maybe he wanted to reestablish the male line of succession. Whatever the reason, it was a harsh act. But Hatshepsut's legacy was too great to be fully erased. We still know her story. Her temples still stand. She proved that a woman could not just rule Egypt, but could make it flourish. She was a truly remarkable pharaoh. Hatshepsut and Sobekneferu were not the only women to wield significant power in ancient Egypt. While they were the only ones to rule as full pharaohs before Cleopatra, other queens also had immense influence. They shaped events, they supported their husbands, they even kept the country together during tough times. They contributed to the idea that powerful women were part of Egypt's royal tradition. Think about Ta, who lived in the 18th dynasty. She was the great royal wife of Amenhotep III. She was the mother of Akhenaten. Ta was a very strong queen. Her husband, Amenhotep III, ruled for a long time. And Ta was by his side the whole time. She appears with him in many statues and reliefs. Her name is often written with his. This shows her importance. She was not just a queen. She was a partner in rule. She had her own estate. She received foreign dignitaries. She wrote letters to other kings. Her influence was clear. She was a respected and powerful figure. She showed that a queen could be a formidable force. She could be involved in all aspects of governance. Then there was Nefertiti. She was the great royal wife of Akhenaten, Tiye's son. Nefertiti is very famous for her beauty, especially her bust statue, but she was more than just a beautiful face. She was a co-ruler with Akhenaten. She was deeply involved in his religious revolution. This was when Akhenaten tried to change Egypt's religion to worship only one god, the Aten. Nefertiti appears in many temple scenes with Akhenaten. She is shown in positions of power. She is striking enemies. She is offering to the Aten. These were actions usually reserved for the pharaoh alone. Some historians even believe she ruled as pharaoh for a short time after Akhenaten's death. She might have used a male name, Smenkhkar or Neferneferuaten. Her exact role in the very last part of Akhenaten's reign and after is still a bit mysterious. But her power was undeniable. She was a queen who truly shared the throne. Moving further along, into the 19th dynasty, we find another woman who became pharaoh. Her name was Tawasret. She was the great royal wife of Seti II. She also served as regent for her stepson Siptah when he was young. After Siptah died, Tawasret became pharaoh herself. This was a turbulent time in Egypt. The new kingdom was facing problems, but Tawasret stepped up. She ruled for about 2 years. She built a mortuary temple and a tomb in the Valley of the Kings. She even had her name written in royal cartouches. This showed she was a true pharaoh. Her reign was short. It was also at a difficult time. But she did rule. She followed in the footsteps of Sobekneferu and Hatshepsut. She proved once again that a woman could hold the ultimate power in Egypt. After her, Egypt went into further decline. The 19th dynasty ended with her, but her decision to take the throne was brave. These powerful queens, whether they were pharaohs or not, set a pattern. They showed that women could lead. They showed that women could govern. They showed that women could hold society together. This long history of strong female figures in the royal court meant that when Cleopatra came along, the idea of a woman in power wasn't totally alien. Cleopatra VII was the last pharaoh of Egypt. She lived much later in the Ptolemaic period. This was when Egypt was ruled by a Greek dynasty after Alexander the Great. She was a very intelligent and skilled ruler. She knew several languages. She was a brilliant diplomat. She fought hard to keep Egypt independent from Rome. But she was not the first. She stood on the shoulders of the women who came before her. So to answer the question clearly, yes, absolutely. Women did rule ancient Egypt before Cleopatra. Sobekneferu was the first confirmed pharaoh. Hatshepsut was the most successful and longest reigning female pharaoh. And Tawasret also ruled as pharaoh. Other women like Merneith, Tiye, and Nefertiti also held incredible power and influence. They all showed remarkable strength, intelligence, and political skill. They navigated a world that was often set up for men. They broke through barriers. They proved that leadership comes from ability, not just from gender. Their stories are a vital part of Egypt's long and rich history. They are a testament to the powerful women who shaped this ancient civilization. They were truly groundbreaking rulers.